How's it, everyone? Welcome to another edition of my racket collection right here on OpenCourt. So today I'm talking about one of my favorite rackets in my collection, easily top 5, probably top 3 actually, and that is the Babolat Pure Strike 2nd generation. Let's check it out. So this is the 2nd generation of the popular Babolat Pure Strike line endorsed by Dominic Thiem, who is one of my favorite players. This was called the Project 17 while it was still in prototype, most likely because it was released back in 2017. Obviously, you guys can see that this is not the standard colorway. The standard cosmetic looks like this. This nice sleek green and white edition is the limited edition Wimbledon colorway of the 2nd generation Babolat Pure Strike. As you guys can see here, it has the Wimbledon seal on the throat here, and as well as the Wimbledon and the seal right here on the inside of the frame. So I really like this colorway. It reminds me of Yoda's green lightsaber, and it's a really flashy bright green color, and I love this racket. This 2nd generation of the Pure Strike was extremely popular when it was first released. It was a lot more popular than the 1st generation, which a lot of people didn't really like. A lot of people complained it was too stiff, too boardy. The flex felt strange, it wasn't in the right place. They overhauled this racket completely and they changed the cosmetic completely so that it didn't resemble the 1st generation at all. Some of the technologies included in this Project 17 Pure Strike are FSI power technology, which is basically just the string spacing here of the cross strings in the upper hoop is wider, which allows the strings to move a little bit more to get a little bit more spin and power in the upper portion of the racket, which is typically where most aggressive advanced players strike the ball. The second thing is its construction of the frame, which is called the hybrid frame construction. It takes aspects of both an elliptical beam and a square or box beam. It has the benefits of both. A box beam will be a little bit more stable because it's squared off here, but an elliptical beam will be a little bit more aerodynamic, therefore swing a little bit faster. So this hybrid elliptical box beam construction allows this racket to be incredibly stable, but at the same time be very aerodynamic and fast swinging. And lastly, the biggest difference between the 1st and 2nd gen is that they thickened the beam a little bit here in the throat to give it a little bit more flex, and that's the #1 complaint with the 1st generation, is that the flex was in the wrong place, and so Babolat addressed that issue. They thickened the frame up here in the throat to give it a little bit more power, a little bit more feel, and a better flex. So this is the standard Pure Strike 98 16x19 edition. This Wimbledon colorway was only available for the Pure Strike 98 16-19 and also the Pure Strike Team. There is also a 98 18x20, which is supposedly the one that Dominic Thiem uses, or at least he endorses. That one will be a lot more control oriented. This one is the 16-19, so it has a little bit more free power and spin. This is one of my favorite rackets, and so I'm gonna get into the pros and cons. Spoiler alert, there aren't very many cons with this racket. Here are the pros. So the Pure Strike is the control line in the Babolat lineup. It doesn't pack quite as bit of a punch as the Pure Drive or as much spin as the Pure Arrow, but the Pure Strike has incredible amounts of control combined with a fast feel and a low launch angle. I really like this racket, especially from the baseline, which is typically what I want in a racket. I want a racket that will help me on my ground strokes and my aggressive returns, keep them nice and low, keep them within the lines. I don't look for too much help at the net. The Pure Strike, don't get me wrong, it's pretty good at the net because of its maneuverability, but it lacks the punch and the plow through that other more stable rackets have at the net. But it's really the incredibly fast feel and the control on those full aggressive swings from the baseline, which really a lot of players, including myself, like about the Pure Strike line. If you look at the poster boy for the Pure Strike line, Dominic Thiem, he has incredibly aggressive, fast swings from the baseline. He has that legendary one-handed backhand His stroke speeds are incredible, and it's really, the Pure Strike is made for those types of players who like to swing aggressively. It has a good weight and balance at 305 grams unstrung, 320 millimeter balance. I would prefer the static weight to be a little bit heavier and the balance to be a little bit head lighter, somewhere around 310 millimeters, but this was easily customizable. I put weight under the butt cap to make it a little bit more head light, and it has that fast feel even with a 320 millimeter balance that I could get it over my head to accelerate on the pronation for the kick serve, which is where I really like this racket. I own about 20 rackets, and this is one of the best in terms of serving because of that fast feel. It packs a decent punch on the flat and the slice, but it's really that acceleration on the kick serve that I really like about this racket. I can get my kick serves up and out, and I can follow it into the net. I never felt like my second serve was a liability with the Pure Strike. Also, the second generation Pure Strike has a nice, crisp, firm feel. A lot of people complain that the first gen had a very boardy feel, it didn't flex right, and just didn't really have that touch or feel that a lot of modern players like. They overhauled this racket completely, and they did a great job in fixing the flex and implementing a decent amount of touch, but that firm feel is really what I like personally, because that's what gives me the confidence to hit the short angles, especially the short angle forehand, which I like to pull my opponent off the court to open up the middle. That's one of my bread and butter shots, especially in doubles, to get that ball near the sidelines. I felt like I could hit that consistently and confidently with the Pure Strike. Also, because of that headlight balance, it knifes through slices. The slices stay nice and low. I could use the slice as a weapon, not just as a defensive maneuver to get back in position. I could chip and charge the returns. I could slice and come up to the net. I just felt really confident overall hitting with this racket from the baseline. So the combination of the weight and balance, the incredible control, and that crisp, firm feel, which gives me the confidence to swing away from the baseline on both power shots, attack returns, and as well as those more finesse-oriented short angles, slices, and the drop shots, is what really separates this Pure Strike from the other rackets in the Babolat lineup, and that is why the Pure Strike line is my favorite of all the Babolat rackets. Now, getting into the cons of the Pure Strike, there aren't too many, honestly. The weight and balance, I could have used a little bit more static weight and a little bit head lighter balance, but I customized my rackets anyway. I put a little bit of weight in the throat to get it a little bit more hefty, and I also put tungsten putty under the butt cap to shift the weight and balance. So these are customizable gripes. They're not really a knock against the racket. Something more objective, I know some people complain that the Pure Strike 2nd gen was pretty stiff, which is why they added the Cortex dampening technology in the 3rd generation, and the 3rd generation feels a lot more muted than the 2nd gen. I personally like that crisp feel, but I know it bothers some people, which is why it's on this cons list. Also, with the 2nd gen, a lot of players complained about a lack of plow through and stability. They added a little bit more weight in the head in the 3rd gen to give it a little bit more stability, which in my opinion just made it a little bit head heavier, and I like the Pure Strike because of that headlight fast swinging feel, and I never found stability to be an issue, but a lot of players do, and so if you're using the 2nd gen, you might want to put some lead in the head to make it a little bit more stable. And lastly, this is just another personal gripe which I have for most Babolat and especially Yonex rackets, is that their grip sizing is not very consistent. If it says 4 1/4, it feels a little bit bigger on a Babolat and Yonex than on a Prince or a head racket. Also, the Babolat grip pallets lack a pronounced flare at the end, so sometimes if my grip gets a little bit sweaty, a little bit slippery, I feel like the grip kind of slides around in my hand and twists. And also on my kick serve, I sometimes feel like the racket may come flying out of my hand, which makes me need to change over grips often. I just wish the Babolat rackets had a more pronounced flare like the head or the Prince rackets, where I could comfortably swing away and not have to worry about the racket slipping or flying out of my hand. So in the end, who is the Pure Strike line for? It's definitely for an aggressive baseliner similar to the Yonex V-Core Pro line or the Head Speed or the Gravity line. The Pure Strike is meant for those who already have an established game, established strokes from the baseline, and just want a lower launch angle with a decent amount of power and spin. But it's really all about that incredible control and the incredible feel from the baseline that separates the pure strike from the other pure lines in Babolat's lineup. So if you're an aggressive swinger from the baseline, the pure strike will give you the confidence you want to be able to swing away, play your game, and dictate the point at your own pace. Thank you for watching another edition of my racket collection right here on Open Court, covering the Babolat Pure Strike 98 16x19 Wimbledon edition. If you guys like this content and want to see more like it, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an Open Court.